everybody, I'm Sadie Williams and I'm a fashion and textile designer, and I specialise in print, colour and pattern. They're things that I really love. So I'm really excited to work with you today and show you a little bit how to do paper weaving. I personally love working with metallics and all things sparkly, so I've decided to work with glitter paper today, but this works really well with plain coloured paper too. I'm just going to show you a couple of my artworks that I've done recently. Sorry, I'll show you on here. And these all are very pattern based and use sort of checks and patterns. So this was kind of one of the inspirations for them moving into paper weaving. These were all created in lockdown and they're just paintings that I've made, and the originals. I added some metallic into them using sweet wrappers and foils left over from like Easter eggs and stuff like that. So today, the materials that you need are the template. Online, there is the template with the cut guide directions. And then this is an example of the template without the cut line directions onto it. It's just literally the lines. So you can either hand draw this onto a piece of paper, onto a piece of card, or you can print it out and then using a Pritt stick, you can just glue it onto the back of a piece of paper. So we're using glitter card today. So here's a piece of glitter card. You can either glue your template onto the back or follow the cut lines, draw your template onto the back of the piece of paper. Once you have your template, you can cut the lines into it. This may already be pre-done for you, but you can fold the piece of paper in half and then cut along the lines. So the lines are just 2 centimeters apart, and then 0.5 centimeters from each edge. So you should end up with a piece of card that looks like this. So it's cut with lots of strips down it. This is it from the other side. So you can see here, we've decided to hand draw it onto the piece of paper with just 0.5 centimeters from the edge and then 2 centimeter slits all the way across. Once you've got that, that's the base for doing our paper weaving. You're going to want lots of strips of glitter as well. So here I've drawn some lines at 0.5 and also 1 centimeters. So you want a variety of strips between 1 centimeter and 0.5 centimeters. You can draw them on using a ruler and a pencil. And once they're drawn on, you're simply cutting along the lines to give you different width strips like this. So it's good to just use a regular ruler and a fine line pencil to get nice and neat lines to draw your strips. Once you have lots of your strips, I find it's really useful to put them in a colour order. So here I've been doing loads of paper weaving, so I've got loads of pre-made strips, but I like to arrange them together in separate colours because I think it really helps me to design and grab what I'm looking for quickly. So you can see here's the orange, for example. We've got 2 centimeter strips, we've got 1 centimeter strips, and we've got some 0.5 centimeter strips. So once you've done that, you've got everything that you need. And I'm going to show you some examples here. Today, we're going to focus on some really bold and graphic designs. and learn how to make these quite simple and graphic designs. The great thing about paper weaving is that nothing is permanent until you decide it is. So here's an example of a design, but you can easily remove pieces and slot pieces back in. So if you change your mind on a color or a design, nothing's permanent, and it's easy for us to rework it or change your mind. But once you have made a permanent decision, it's quite useful to get a bit of blue tack and take a little dot, and then under the flaps, just pop a little bit of blue tack on there and squeeze it down, and then the pieces won't move around and they'll be permanently fixed into the position that you'd like. I'm just going to remove that because we're going to be looking at this one later. If you don't have blue tack, you can do the same thing with masking tape. You can just rip a little bit of masking tape, and then I use my fingers to just roll it into a little tab. And then you might want to fold that in half if it's too big, and you can just pop it underneath and press it down, and it will do the same thing as the blue tack will. So I'm just going to flick through some of the ones that I've been working on already. So these are more simple ones that I'm going to show you today. And then here's some more designs. These are zigzag designs. And then I've worked on some checkerboard and tartan designs. And lots of these were more just a case of carrying on and playing with the glitters and changing things and making decisions as I go along and changing things up rather than following a fixed plan. But hospital rooms have the images for all of these up online. So if there's any designs you're particularly keen to carry on and try, you can look at the pictures and try and follow the pictures online to see if you can recreate them, or maybe in your own colorway, whichever you decide to do. So this one I call chains. And there's 3 different colorways there. So you can see you can do the same designs, but change the look of them. And they look really great when they're shining in the sun. I'm just going to pop those away. This one is an example of using plain card. So we've got glitter and plain card mixed together. So you can definitely do this exercise using plain colors as well as just glitter. The only recommendation I would have is that you use card rather than paper, because it's a lot easier to maneuver the card through the gaps and the slits, but I'll show you that as we get going. So this is the design that we're going to start with today. Kind of a checkerboard counter color design that changes scale. It has large, big blocks and then small ones, and it has little shallow ones and then quite long ones as well. So it's simple, but quite effective. I've only chosen 2 colors here, whereas on this one, I have exactly the same design, but there's just a few different colors here. I've got blue, I've got purple, and the whole central section is pink, purple and blue. So you can see it's quite easy to change the design simply. So I'm going to start from scratch and show you how to do this, and just take out the strips so we can begin.
So while Sadie is removing the strips, I just want to say a big hello to everyone that's joining us today. Hi to the National Psychosis Unit and everyone joining us there. Big hello to Aston Ward, hello to the Vales and London MPU as well. Big hello to Queen Mary's Lavender Ward. Thank you all so much for joining us live. We're thrilled you're with us for Sadie's workshop.
Cool. So that's all ready to go now. So you should each have your base paper with the slits cut into it, which you can see like that. And then we're just going to start by getting one strip that's 2 centimeters. That's the widest strip that you've got. And then right at one edge, we're going to go on top and then wiggle your strip underneath. So from the back, it will look like that. We're going to go underneath and then we're going to go back on top. So it's one under, one on top, sorry, one under and one on top. And then one under again. It doesn't matter where you slot it in on the paper, that's fine. It doesn't have to be at the top of the card. You can do that at absolutely any point that's easiest. You can get your fingers involved and then we're going to push it along and we're going to do 2 on top this time. So instead of going under the next slit, we're going to skip one. So there's going to be 2 spaces. And then we're going to go back to going 1 under. I find it helpful to put a hand underneath sometimes. You can use your fingers at the edge, fingers at the side. Sometimes it can help to use your fingers here to push along. All you want to do is just follow the same recipe that I've done. So it's 1 on top, 1 underneath, 1 on top, 1 underneath, and then you've got 2 on top, 2 slits, 1 underneath and 1 on top. Then we're going to go 1 underneath. And then we're going to go back to 2 on top here. So we're skipping 1. And then underneath. And then back on top. Underneath. And back on top. So then you should have one piece completely in line. The sun's coming out here so you can really see it start to sparkle. So I hope you're all level and up to date with me on that. If you are, you can start to nudge it towards one end of the paper. So don't press it too hard, but you should be able to wiggle it right up to one edge of the paper. And then once you've done that, you can grab your next piece. Basically, we're going to do exactly the opposite. So where we went on top of the paper on the first line, this time we're going to go underneath first. And then we're going to go on top, underneath. Again, you don't have to do this right up at the top of the paper. You can do it further down if you find it easier, if there's a bit more space to move. The main principle is just doing the opposite of what you've just done. So on this first strip, in this section, we went underneath. So this time we're going to go on top. So you just want the opposite this time. Here we skipped it and we went 2 underneath. If it really helps, you can also go this way. Have a look. Put your hand underneath. You can always flip the paper back and forth if you find that easier. And then we're going to go underneath and on top. Underneath for 2. Again, we're just copying the line above. On top, underneath, on top, underneath. So when you get to the end, you just want to level off the piece of card that you've put in, the little strip, so that it's not poking out one end like this, and it's not poking out the other end like that. You just want to even it out. And then using your fingers, you can wiggle it up and try and get it as far up in line as you can to the first piece that you've done. And you can see us beginning to build this weave here. Now we're going to pick one more at 2 centimeters. And again, we're going to do the opposite of the second strip. Basically the same as the first strip. So on top, go underneath, on top, underneath, on top, And just wiggle it along however you're finding it easiest. Here we're going to go underneath, on top, underneath, on top, underneath, on top, underneath, and on top. Put a bit of tape on there, I'll get rid of that. And then the same principle, we're just going to wiggle it up in line with the other one. So you can really start to see the pattern beginning to form. Now we're going to take a 1 centimeter strip, so going a size down. And again, we're just doing the opposite, so super simple. So we'll do the opposite of the last one that we did, or the same as the second one. But always doing opposites, and we get that nice contrast and colour blocking, and it gives that checkerboard effect. That's on top. That's underneath. We skip one. I might turn it over just to make it a bit easier to skip one. Come under. Flip it over again. You might not feel you need to flip it over, but some people might find that easier. So just do it however suits you best. You can flip it over each time if you prefer, and it can show you, you can really easily see how to do it. So on this one, it's going across 2. So I just have to remember that when I'm flipping to the other side, that this time I'm going to go across 2, which I can see I've done here as well. So just keep pushing it along, feeding it through at any point. And we're going to go underneath. And the same principle that we're always doing, just pushing it up. And you can work your way along it, just making sure it's all nice and straight. And you've got nothing sticking out the end. Then we're going to do another skinny one. And again, we'll just do the opposite. So you're doing the opposite of the last one that you did, and the same as the one before. It should be a bit easier now, and you can get the hang of it, and you can start to see the pattern emerging, see what you've got to do next.
Sadie, just a time check for you and for everyone else joining us. We've got about 25 minutes left of today's workshop.
Cool. So now that one's done, nice skinny one. We're actually at the halfway point. So halfway through this one. I've chosen 2 blues here just because blue is my favorite color, and they're quite contrasting blues, so they don't look too similar, and you can really see a strong contrast, but you can pick absolutely any color that you want. Sometimes it can be quite nice to have subtle differences as well, but for this design, I particularly like a really strong contrast because it's such a bold and simple design.
Got a couple more hellos to do while Sadie is weaving. Big hello to Lisa, who's joining us from Exeter, and a very warm welcome to Bluebell Ward. It's great to have you back with us live.
Yeah, thank you for joining, everyone. I hope that you're managing to follow. As I said, we're already halfway through now, so if I speed up and you haven't quite caught up with me, you can just follow on from what you've done, especially once you're at the halfway point. This is a symmetrical design. So there's 2 of these skinny ones. So I'm going to do 2 of them here. So there's 4. There's 3 big ones on the side. I'm going to do 3 big ones on this side. So it's just symmetrical. So it's just a case of following a bit of the design that's already happened on the other side once you're at halfway point. There's only 4 of the 1 centimeter strips that we're going to do. So right now I'm on my 4th one. What can be quite nice as well, if you don't have a matching colour for all of the strips, is you can always alternate the colours. So instead of just doing dark blue, you could do dark blue red, dark blue red, dark blue red, or whichever colour combo you want to do, really. All right, then I'm going to grab a 2 centimeter strip again. So I've done 3 at 2 centimeters, and I've done 1, 2, 3, 4 at 1 centimeter. Again, the same principle, just doing the opposite of the one that you've just done. Each time you're just switching it around. And do 2 underneath, 1 on top. And pushing it up. Nearly there. 2 centimeter piece. Again, just doing the opposite. Sometimes it gets a little bit trickier as you get towards the end because there's less space here for all the glitters. So I'm going to show you a trick to help push them up as we get to the last piece, which is definitely the hardest one to slip into place. So I'll put that one in, I'm going to budge it up. Then, as we come to the last piece, I kind of like to get the first piece and just pull it as tight as I can down to the other edge, and then work my way down. So I'll get the next one, using my fingers, just kind of pull it down, nudging it down, and then I'll do it with the next piece. And the next one. You can see it's really getting budged up now. And the next one.
So while Sadie is nudging those last pieces down, got a few more hellos, lots to have them streaming through. Hi to Lisa and everyone joining us from Larkspur House in Gateshead, and a big hello to Vicky and the team at Wheatfield Unit. Thanks so much for joining us. We can't wait to see your pieces.
So now the final one, I'm going to go the opposite of the one before. Now I should have plenty of space here to get this last one in. It really helps to nudge it up because often you end up with just a tiny bit of space and you can't really wiggle your last piece in. So it's good to give yourself plenty of space by nudging it all to one side. And then we're weaving it in and out. Again, feel free to go the other way if you find it helpful to swap each time. Now, so that we don't get left with this big gap here, it's just a case of nudging again, but just to even out the design. So it's not really a mathematical thing now, it's just more about using your eye to keep it really even. So it looks like a nice spread out design. I might continue nudging these up a little bit more back again. There. So that is a completed piece. Now I'm going to show you one other thing. Because nothing is permanent until we fix it down, these pieces can just come out really easily. So earlier I was saying if you wanted to change and do alternate colours, we can still do that. If you decide to change your mind or you want to change the colours that you've got going on. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. So you just literally pull it out. You might want to nudge a piece down first with your fingers or grab it at the end. Sometimes it can be a little bit tight and you might want to just wiggle it out a bit, or again do the nudging trick where we nudge it away. So I'm going to choose a contrast colour here, and I might go for a really pale blue. So to put it back in, I know I just need to do the opposite of what's here. So the dark blues are underneath here, so I'm going to put my pale blue one on top, and you're just doing the opposite each time.
Just as a time check for everyone, we've got about 20 minutes left of today's workshop with Sadie.
Sometimes it can be a little bit trickier to feed them in after you've made the whole design. That's because it's all a bit tight. But if that's the case, you just keep doing the little nudging trick to give yourself a little bit more space. So I was finding it a bit tight there. I'm just going to spread these two that are on either side apart a little bit, so I've got more space to come through with my new piece. And once it's all the way in, you just want to even it out at the edges. I'll just get that one out of the way, and you can nudge it down like that. I'm going to do the same on this side to keep my design symmetrical, but you do not have to keep it symmetrical. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to do that. So I'm just going to nudge my designs down a little bit to give me a little bit more space up there. And I'm going to feed it in exactly the same way. So here they're on top, so I have to go underneath. Just so I'm doing the opposite each time of what's on either side. Two under. Flip it to make it a bit easier for myself. This is why it's easier to use card, because sometimes the paper can get a bit bent and then it's hard to keep it stiff and push it along. So definitely try and use card rather than paper. Sometimes I just have to really get in there and pull it along if it's a bit tight, but don't forget you can always nudge the pieces down to make it a bit easier for yourself too. And that's the last bit. So there you go. Changed it a bit there. And then what's quite nice, if you want to work into a design a little bit more, is we should have some strips that are 0.5 centimeters. And these are great for making a design really complex. So once you've got your design, again, you can always pull them out if you don't like what you've added to it. But I'm just going to get a 0.5 centimeter one. And on that new piece, you can just slip it on. It can be exactly the same way. It doesn't have to be fed through in a different way. It's just a case of slipping it under where the blue one goes under, like that. And the bits on the top card just sort of keep it all in place. So it'll be trapped underneath. And it can just give you another little extra layer of detail by doing that. I've chosen a dark purple on top of a pale blue because it gives a nice contrast. But sometimes it can be nice to use similar colours as well. So it's really easy to add in the extra layers. I'm just using my finger to sort of push it along. Sometimes I'll use my hand here to sort of squeeze it up a bit just to make a little bump here. It makes it a bit easier to feed it in. And then you just want to put it evenly halfway down, like that. You can also add 0.5 centimeters on top of the 1 centimeter strips as well. It's just a little bit trickier, but I can give it a go now to show you. So that's just an example showing you how you can add colours on top of colours. I'll just put that a bit closer to the camera so you can see. I'm going to take that one out because I feel like I don't like that so much in this design, but you just do whatever you want to do with it, really. And then the other thing, when I've created these check designs, you can see I've added them in this way and that way. I'm just going to show you how to add them in the other way, because so far we've just been weaving in and out of the pre-cut slits. But this time we can weave underneath the new pieces of paper, the new strips that you've put in. So I'm going to add in some orange here and literally just going underneath the blue strip. And then here I'm going to try and go underneath the blue strip. Sometimes you might need to just pick off a bit of the paper just to get under there. It can be a little bit tight sometimes. Sometimes you can bend the card so you can feed it underneath. That's the good thing about the card, is it's all a bit bendable. Sometimes it might take you a little bit more time. I've got lots of practice at this, so I've got quite speedy, but you can really take your time with this. And as I said, nothing is permanent. So if you don't like something you've done, you can just take it out. So I'm going to add another bit of colour to this one. Maybe I will do bright pink. I'm going to do the same thing. Just go underneath those blue strips that I've done. Again, I'm using my fingers to kind of push it up a little bit, and it makes it a little bit easier to feed the paper through. If you're finding it really hard, you might need to just push it from the edge of the slit as well. And I'm going to add one more pink. So here I've added the pink, just the other side of the two. So here's the two, so I'm just going to add the pink to the other side, just to keep it nice and symmetrical.
And as a time check for everyone, we've got about 10 minutes left of the workshop.
So there you go. That's a nice and symmetrical bit there. And then I just wanted to show you as well, with these more complicated designs, like these tartans here, sometimes I've done a triple here. So I've got brown on top of a orange on top of a blue. So here we have a double. We have a purple on top of a blue. If we want, we could add even more detail by putting in another colour. So I'm going to do that on these purple strips. I'm going to decide on a colour. Maybe I will do gold, something contrasting. So you just go up to the end and you wiggle in between the top layer of purple and the pale blue, and then it should be quite easy with the middle one to speed it through like that. It's just sandwiched in between the two layers, so it's just a case of pushing it through. If you find that a bit too fiddly, it's not necessary, it's just an extra layer of embellishment. Once I've got it all the way, I just try and even it out a bit so that the purple is right in the middle of it. And I'm just going to do that on the other side. So as you can see, you can just go on and get more and more detailed with it if you want. But if you preferred the graphic design that was quite simple and bold and graphic, you can always just take the pieces out. So these bits are sticking out. If you want to finish the piece as it is, the best thing to do is get your fingers and just flap them down, so they're around the back, like that. And then if you fold it back and forward, forwards, back, forwards, it just weakens the paper at exactly the right point where you want to then rip it. So you can just have a nice ripped edge. There, and then it will look really nice and neat. So I'm just going to go back and forwards. And you shouldn't need to do this on the long pieces. They should all be the right size. It should only be for when you're going across the paper, along the shorter side. Back and forwards. Give it a little rip. Back and forwards. And give it a little rip. This is the last one on my design. And give it a little rip. So there you go. And then, as I said, if you think you preferred it simple, you've made a mistake, you simply just get one end and you should be able to wiggle out your piece like that and get rid of it. So I'm just going to wiggle that out. Wiggle that out. And then we've got rid of those and we've still got these ones. I'm just going to wiggle them out just to show you how easy it is to just change your design. So you can just keep playing around, experimenting. Just going to wiggle that out until you've got something that you really like the look of. And I'm just going to show you quickly here some zigzags, because these ones so far are just very blocky. So to make a zigzag, it's quite simple. I'm just going to show you on part of it, the principle. We take out some of these. Basically, instead of going in and out and in and out with each slip, we're going to do it every other slip. So 2 slits on top and then 2 slits behind. So here I've got 2. 2 slits on top, 2 slits behind. This is just what you need to do any kind of zigzag design. 2 slits on top, and 2 slits behind. Then you get your next piece, and instead of doing exactly the same, you're going halfway between the two, and then halfway between the gap. And you're coming up halfway between the previous two, and you're going back down halfway in the gap. So it's staggered. So you're coming back up halfway between the previous one, and you're going back halfway down between the gap. And then when they nudge together, you can see we're going on a diagonal. So to do a zigzag, if you want to carry on the zigzag, just keep going in that direction. Or if you want to come down again, just do what you did the time before. So we're going to go 2 on top. I nearly made a mistake there. And that's just showing you how you can get a zigzag design rather than just doing everything as a block or a check pattern. So they're like a mini zigzag for you there. This example just uses 2 colours. I've done plain paper and glitter paper, but of course you can do glitter on glitter. And here I've just done 2, white on purple, but here it's exactly the same design, what I've done here, but I've got 3 different colours on here. I've got blue and turquoise and green, so you can choose whichever colours you want, and they don't have to repeat either. You could have a rainbow going through, or whichever colours you want, really. These zigzags, they go up for 4 goes before they come down. I've shown you one here that just goes up and down, up and down, up and down. But it's up to you, whichever you want to do, really. And that's what's so good about this process, is just being able to play around and change your mind. So I might just change this one and just see what it looks like. Put some nice glitter colours on instead of white on the purple.
And Sadie, we're just entering the last kind of 3 minutes or so of today's workshop.
Doing that wrong. Sometimes it's quite easy to find it a bit confusing if you're rushing, especially, and make a mistake. But that's the good thing, is you can just always go back again and swap it out. So I really like that colour on there, so I'm going to switch this piece to that colour as well. Just showing you how easy it is to just change your mind or choose different colours. Yeah, so that gives you an idea. I'd be able to carry on that and it would give you this pattern. Or instead of doing continuous zigzag, you can use a colour that matches your background. Just do it, which they're not really supposed to notice this one. It's a way of giving you some space. And it will just break up the line. So rather than having a continuous flowing line of zigzag, by having a plain bit of purple here, we've broken it up. So it's almost just like a little motif. I'm just going to pull out a few more of these and show you what I mean. So I've doing one more little motif for you. I'll just pull out the whole design. So I just want two that are matching at 1 centimetre. Looking through my collars. Got some nice turquoise here and a darker turquoise. I'm just going to copy what I did here on the other side of the purple. I'm going to do this super quickly just to show you how it looks when we have some little motifs. And then I'm going to go back to white because I really like having that white in the middle like a contrast. So we're just doing repeated little shapes. And they're going to look like little motifs, like a repeat pattern we're creating. It's just quite different from the blocky pattern that we did before. Just showing you there's all sorts of patterns that we can make out of these strips of paper, and it's really quite nice to just play around. So there you go. So you could carry that on throughout the paper and you'll just have like a nice little design of motifs. And this principle is what I did to make these chains. So if you have a go at doing this, you could look online, have a look at a design like this, and I'm sure by looking at it, you can figure out how many you need to go under and on top to sort of create a pattern like that, which looks like chains. So I think that's it really. Just yeah, showing you how to do that. And I could just recap quickly on how to fix it down. So if you decide that you did want this as your final piece, literally just getting the end, a little bit of blue tack, popping it underneath and squishing it down, and doing the same with all of the edges of the pieces. I would even do it on the ones that you don't see from the top. So here on this edge, I'll get that too. Just add a little bit of blue tack. And as I said before, if you don't have blue tack, just get a little bit of masking tape or sellotape, make a little loop. Hold it to so should be all fixed.
Amazing. That was an absolutely mesmerizing, fantastic workshop, Sadie. Can't thank you enough. We've had such a large audience today, and I think very few questions coming through. So I think everyone's just been completely immersed in the process. And thank you so much for showing us all the absolutely gorgeous techniques. We've got lots of thank yous coming through, Sadie. Big hello from Ross, who says that they'll be watching the recording back as well, and the instructions were really easy to follow. So thank you so much for all your prep work, Sadie.
Oh, brilliant.
Do you have any final notes, Sadie? Any ways that we can follow your upcoming projects and work?
Yeah, I keep my Instagram probably as the best way to see what I do. I've also popped some of these pictures of these on here. So if you did want to look on there as well as on hospital rooms, you can have a look there. My Instagram is Sadie Williams _studio. Thank you so much to everyone that joined. I just love the fact that you can all like have a go, and I'd love to see what any of you get up to as well. As I said, like it's really fun to just play or like keep working into them or changing your mind. I've really enjoyed making all of these previous examples and just finding it quite therapeutic and experimenting and sort of making up patterns as I went along. So if it is something that you've really liked doing, like I'd really encourage you to sort of like keep at it and playing around and, you know, developing the designs and adding into them, taking away from them, and yeah, just enjoying the process. And they look really good together, like when you've got more than one together, like a sort of graphic series as well. So yeah, have fun. And thanks for joining me.
We can see a bit of a snippet of your studio behind you as well, Sadie, which is really, really exciting. So we'd encourage everyone to continue to follow your work. So thank you once again on behalf of Hospital Rooms for such a great workshop today. Thanks everyone that has submitted a comment in today's workshop. It's always so wonderful to have you all with us live. So it's time now to launch our end of workshop poll. If you could please indicate on your screens how you found the workshop today, this will really help us to grow and improve the Digital Art School through 2022 and beyond. So that's going to be popping up on your screens now, and we'll let that run through to the end of the session. If you are still here with us, I'd like to share with you the story of Hospital Rooms and how the workshop today has come about. So we are a London-based arts and mental health charity, and we transform inpatient NHS mental health units with extraordinary art. The Digital Art School is hugely important as it allows us to build a community where we can join together globally and feel part of something really special. You can find the library of our past projects and all of the previous Digital Art School workshops on our YouTube channel, where you'll find a variety of original sessions with leading artists. From collage, drawing, printing, and so much more, please do have a look and subscribe to our channel. We also have a Digital Art School newsletter, which keeps you informed of upcoming workshops, the materials you'll need for them, along with any relevant downloads you might need for the session. This includes things such as the paper template that we used in Sadie's workshop today. So you can sign up for that at hospital-rooms.com. We really love it when you share your artworks with us by uploading to our online gallery, and you can submit those using your name, or you can stay anonymous. If you created a paper weaving or two today, either joining us live or watching this back on demand, we'd really, really love to see them. And of course, we'll share all of those with Sadie. We will be back next week at 2 p.m. for a mixed media mark making workshop with artist and designer Darren John. Don't forget to register for that for free on our website. From myself and everyone on the Hospital Rooms team, thank you all so much for joining us today, and another huge thank you to our brilliant artist and designer, Sadie Williams. Take care, everyone. Enjoy the sunshine, and we'll see you all again next week on Thursday.